connection between the two. Now Rivaldo, Owen Khan spilled it, Ronaldo!
It's unbelievable that the ruthless, nerveless, exhilarating Brazil that we 90s kids have grown up watching doesn't quite exist anymore, neither in pen and paper nor in the football field, and a handful of Brazil's new future prospects, the likes of Vitor Roque, Enrique, Andre Santos, don't quite have the first-hand idea of how incredible their mother nation was back in the days as they were born after 2002, and Brazil didn't win any World Cup since then. First of all, if you look at Brazil's 2002 World Cup winning squad, how bizarrely gifted that bunch of players were. Ronaldinho, Ronaldo, Rivaldo, Kaká, 4 different players from that squad have won Ballon d'Or, which is really rare. So I don't find it quite logical to take Brazil's 2002 squad as a part of what a squad should be to win a World Cup, because it's quite impossible and impractical to match that squad. But the good news is you don't need so many different Ballon d'Or winners to win the World Cup, and that gets pretty clear once you look at the teams who have won the World Cup since 2002. They have hardly one or any Ballon d'Or winners in their teams, but still managed to clinch the trophy. So number 1, the coach conundrum. The main conundrum for Brazil is selecting their coach. No foreign coach has ever won the World Cup, so that's something I guess everyone concentrates while appointing a national coach of big teams, and that's totally understandable. National teams players need to be motivated by infusing patriotic and emotional speeches, and if the person who is leading from the front is not their countryman, it might be hard to follow. So Brazil did follow this model so far and has appointed a coach of their own, but they all fell short, and since 2002, all 5 times Brazil was knocked out of the World Cup by a European opponent. Brazilian football sadly currently is not producing coaches who are very progressive, and they are not great tacticians either. No disrespect to anyone, but for a good few years Brazil kept winning friendlies in between World Cups, which keeps their percentage win record very high, but when it comes to knockout matches of big tournaments like Copa America final or World Cup quarter-final, they fall short all the time because of proper implementation of tactics and discipline. If you see the goal that knocked them out in 2022 against Croatia, what so many Brazilian players were doing up the pitch when there are hardly a couple of minutes to play? They should defend for their life, but again, they didn't have that discipline. Brazilian super talents are known for their lack of discipline and integrity, and a lot of players who could have ruled world football for years had to cut their career short because of their crazy lifestyle. But back then, Brazil still could afford that because of 2 reasons. One, they used to have a flock of players who are way better than most players in the world, and secondly, European football and tacticians didn't reach their peak just yet, and league football in Brazil also didn't deteriorate that much. So long story short, now is the time for Brazil to appoint a coach without considering if he is Brazilian or foreign, and I was really happy with the possibility of Ancelotti signing for Brazil, but looks like that's not gonna happen. Brazil did already sign Dorival Jr. as their new coach, and we don't know enough of him yet to comment on that because most of his experiences so far are just of coaching in the Brazilian league. But in the long run, Brazil needs a coach who is a super good tactician and a specialist in knockout football. The likes of Ancelotti, Mourinho, Guardiola, and even Zidane come to my mind, who can be a good fit for the next Brazil project. Number 2, assigning roles to every player. So the first thing is done. Brazil got themselves a good coach, foreign or not, but who is a good tactician, has adaptable game plans, has a plan B. Now the thing that he needs to incorporate in his team is assigning roles for every player. What I have seen in the last few major tournaments, Brazil still plays a brand of football that depends a lot on individual brilliance. The problem is twofold here. First, Brazil doesn't have an abundance of footballers right now who are better than most players in the world, as I just said before. Secondly, if the first point is valid, more often than not, you can beat the team with discipline and tactics. So whoever the coach is, he needs to assign every player their perfect role and task. And what do I mean by that? If you see different Jose Mourinho's teams, the likes of Obe Mikel, Essien, Matic, etc. had very specific roles. They were solid defensively, very efficient in destroying opponents' attack and gameplay by their interceptions, tackles, and possessions. If you see this role in the Brazil team, the likes of Fernandinho, Fabinho over time, and now Bruno Guimaraes, Fred, etc., none of them actually are okay with sticking in their roles. They are often caught out of positions. They're also mostly a little better in attacking than the likes of Mikel, Matic, Essien, so they don't want to be employed in the dirty role of destroying opponents' attack, which is so important. But these kind of things are what a good coach demands and are necessary to win titles. Like Jack Grealish sacrificed his attacking attribute to a huge extent under Pep, playing all the time almost touching the touchline and drawing opponents' defenders wide so his peers can create the very necessary space for them. Carlo Ancelotti often plays the very talented Camavinga in the left-back position whenever necessary, though that's not his preferred role. Mourinho even used to sell players as good as Juan Mata if they don't necessarily comply with his role and don't want to track back from their attacking positions. Scaloni did that perfectly in this Argentine team. Everyone there is sticking in their roles, everyone there is playing for their life, for Messi, for Argentina. Brazil needs to do that. They need their CDM to focus more on their dirty work even if they are capable of fluent attacks. If they have a striker who is good at header, they need their winger to play frequent crosses even if they just want to cut back to the D-box and shoot for themselves. They need to formulate their game plan as a team and every single player there needs to stick to that plan and their role. Number 3. Giving small clubs players fair chances. Next stage is that Brazil needs to focus on not just the players in the big teams, but the overall talent pool that they have in smaller teams or in their own Brazilian league. For example, João Pedro at Brighton and Matheus Cunha at Wolves are having a pretty good season. Bruno Guimaraes is playing well for Newcastle for a couple of good seasons but couldn't actually shine so far in the Brazilian team. Players like Savio and Ian Couto, who are shining at Girona this season, also need to be in the mix. So there are a lot of Brazilian players in different leagues and you need to cater and shape your team according to that rather than just finding the best individual players in each position. For example, Rafinha might be your best available choice in the right wing. Gabriel Jesus or Richarlison might be your best available choice in the forward position, but the playing style that you are trying to play, they might not be the best fit for that. I hope you understand what I am implying here. Number 4. Selecting or cultivating leadership. In that role assigning department, Brazil needs to have 2-3 players with huge character, a couple of players who can lead from the back and front. Neymar has been the poster boy for Brazil for a really long time, but he is never a leader. Thiago Silva was a leader and Brazil needs a couple of other players like him in their defensive and central midfield positions. Someone who can organize the defense throughout the game, someone who can shout the heck out whenever necessary, can motivate them, can help them get into shape in between transitions. Number 5. Penalty saving goalkeeper. My last point is goalkeeper, and I think this will be a pretty weird one for most people because Brazil arguably has 2 of the best goalkeepers playing for 2 of the greatest clubs in Europe, and I do admire them. But the problem with both Alisson and Ederson is none of them are super great at saving penalties, and you saw the importance of penalty saving keepers in recent World Cups. A keeper like Emiliano Martinez can infuse tremendous confidence in your team. The fact of having someone like him always shouts silently that don't worry if the games go to penalties, I'll be there for you. So am I suggesting to select someone else in the keeper position over Alisson and Ederson? Not quietly, but both of these duo needs to up their penalty saving skills. And if that's not possible, and if Brazil do have someone with that skill in some other small team, they need to give him a chance. Number 6. The long picture. This is not an exact point, but I'm just trying to present the bigger picture here before wrapping it up. If we look deeper into the 5 teams who have owned since 2002, I'd like to divide them in 2 different categories. Italy, Spain and Germany go on one side and France and Argentina on the other. The main dividing criteria of these 2 groups are their league system. Italy, Spain and Germany, all 3 of them owned the trophy basically when their individual leagues were flourishing. AC Milan owned the UCL in 2003 and 2007 and was finalist in 2005. Barcelona owned the UCL in 2009 and 2011, and Bayern Munich owned it in 2013 and was finalist in 2012. But this is honestly not surprising at all. In modern football, if you take time as the deciding criteria, club football prevails on the majority part of the year and players just play a handful of international games. So if a good number of your players are actually playing in the same team, that's a huge benefit for you as those players know each other's playing style well. Italy's 2006 winning squad had a huge number of players from AC Milan and Juventus. Spain's 2010 squad was hugely crowded by Barcelona players, and as almost 7-8 first team players were from the same club, which is really a rare thing, that contributed hugely in Spain's sandwich Euro World Cup Euro trophies. And Germany's 2014 squad featured majorly by Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund players. So I guess you got where I'm going with this. Now that's not true for the recent two winners, France and Argentina. Their league is doing okay, I'd say, and currently it's kinda impossible to match the quality of the European clubs by any other continent simply because of the money invested in those clubs. So Brazil can't follow that either, so they need to follow the model of Argentina and France in this particular aspect. If you saw Argentina's 2022 World Cup winning squad before actually Argentina own it, that doesn't quite look like a squad that would win the World Cup. There are a lot of players in that squad, you probably can't even name which club they played for before the World Cup. They are not big names in world football, but they put their heart and soul in the field to play as a group for one single ambition. If you compare players by players, Brazil's players were way more well known and probably better in individual talents, but failed to win anyway. I'd like to mention Croatia here too, though they didn't win the World Cup, but just by togetherness and determination and discipline, they went to the final in 2018 and played in the semi-final in 2022, beating Brazil in the quarter-final. So Brazil needs to infuse that mentality and discipline and togetherness in their team if they really want to win the World Cup in the foreseeable future. That's it for today, guys. If you are a Brazil fan, please let us know what you think Brazil should do going ahead. If you like this video, please dump a like and subscribe to our channel for more football related content like this. Until next time, tada.